Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to be going over the very easy web challenge Lazy Ballot from the 2023 Hack the Box Business CTF. And Cliffs, if you're just here because you want to know what you were supposed to do, essentially there's just a simple NoSQL injection bypass to log in, and from that you can get the flag. So if we look at the challenge itself, if we download the source, again, I say this in like every video, I always like to, instead of going to the website, I like to try and figure out what the website does or is from the source code. I think it's harder, and so it helps me better understand the site and also gives me practice at reading source code, which is a really valuable skill. And yeah, if I look at the site first, I feel like I end up missing a lot because when I go through the source, then I just sort of like, oh, yeah, I know what that does. And I just sort of glance at it as opposed to going through it. I actually really have to focus on it. One of the things, so just kind of briefly going through this, always look at the Docker file to see what is actually getting set up and built. We see we're using CouchDB. The flag is getting written to the root directory. We can figure out a lot just from the Docker. And then I always look at the package. You want to see if they're forcing a certain version. That'll give you an idea maybe that they're doing that because that version's vulnerable, but you can also get an idea for, like pug. So we can think, oh, maybe there's like a template injection, stuff like that. And if we look at the index, what we see, no, it's not here. Oh, it's in routes. I wanted to show this index. So we get basic idea of the site, right? We have a login. If we have an authenticated session, we get redirected to the dashboard. Otherwise, we get sent back to the login. We can log out. The dashboard is going to render this panel pug. We see there is an API endpoint to what I'm going to assume you have to be authenticated to access it, and it's going to give you all the votes from the database. We see there is a login post, so it's looking for a username and password. You have to have both of them. And if you successfully log in, then it has this authenticated equals true in the session. If we go through and look, if essentially logging in is, do we have this authenticated? If not, we get a 401. And then the other kind of big one is this database. So if we look at what's going on here, we see the CouchDB instance is being set up on port 5984. The login is admin, and that's the password. So if we could access that, we could access the database. Kind of going through, we see there's an admin user with a password that is just this random bytes. So I'm not going to be able to figure that out. We see there's the seed vote, and the important thing in that was, so we read in the flag, and there it is. We're going to see that the flag is getting written into one of the votes. So being able to list the votes will let us see the flag. And if we go back to here, we see the only way we can list votes is if we're authenticated, which means we need to be able to log in. I don't think there was anything else in there. So, I just kind of briefly went over it. That would, took me quite a bit longer to sort of figure all that out as I go over, because, I go through everything. But there's a couple different ways we could think about, right? Like if somehow we could access the CouchDB instance, we could get in, we could figure out this password, we could get in, but the kind of most straightforward way seems to be being able to log in, but we're not going to be able to use the password. Well, if you Google CouchDB, because I didn't really know anything about it, you'll see it's a NoSQL database. So then, since it's a very easy web challenge, the first thing to think about is like, oh, okay, maybe we can use some kind of NoSQL injection. And if we look at the way you log in, we see from the login, right? We're passing in username, password just in the body of our request, and it's doing the login function. It's just passing whatever we give it directly into this function. And if we go back to where it was in here, we see it's just getting sent as, so there's no, essentially what I'm trying to say is there's no kind of sanitization or anything going on. It's just, we can use that directly to look up it in the database. So first thing that makes sense to try is see if, given that we know it's NoSQL, is see if we can do a NoSQL injection. So if we go to the website and we remembered it was on login. Oops. We just have this username, password. So let's look at it in burp. Oops. So we see there's our session cookie. We tried to log in. It said invalid username and password. So let's send this over to repeater. And let's try see if a NoSQL injection works. So we know there was a user named admin. And instead of passing in a string, let's pass in an array where if you kind of look up a NoSQL cheat sheet or anything, you'll see that this is saying not equal. So if we send it this, what we're saying is it'll try and find if there's an admin where the password does not equal the blank string. I mean, we can give it whatever. And then if we try and log in, it says we authenticated successfully. So now it should have in our session cookie written that we're authenticated. So we should just be able to go to the dashboard. Sorry, it's not written into the session cookie. The session cookie, the server will see we're authenticated. And if we look at the votes, we see, oh yeah, let's actually, well, instead of going through all of them, because I don't remember where it was, we know that there was an endpoint that actually should be in our, there we go. So this got them all, and then the JavaScript just wasn't displaying them all because it paginated them. So anyway, searching through all the votes, just search for HTB because that's what we know the flags start with, and boom, there's the flag. So that was a pretty cool challenge. The kind of keys to these is always just like go through the code, find what the user input, where it's accepting user input, which in this case is only through the login, and then just follow that all the way through the code base. And if you do that here, Google what you don't understand, read docs for things you don't understand. You could go through here. You're going to see it gets passed into the login user. If you looked at the database, maybe you're like me, you didn't know what CouchDB was. Well, you just Google it. And then you end up seeing it comes through here. So you Google selector and you'll come up with a whole bunch of essentially bypasses, which is just what I did. And that's kind of how you would attack challenges like this. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully you got something out of this. If you did and wanted to like or subscribe, that'd be pretty cool, or any of that jazz. And yeah, thanks.